Aban Sumani Bagbi. This man has a glowing political CV. He is the longest-serving member of parliament. He has been returned to parliament by the people of Nadaoli Kalio in the Upper West region 7 consecutive times. Mr. Bagbi is the current second deputy speaker of parliament, has been minister of health as well as works and housing. But the man's role as minority leader between 2001 and 2009 is what endeared him to many, both within and outside the NDC. He led with courage of conviction and troubled the John Kufuor government a great deal. On one occasion, he dragged the government before the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice. Aban Bagbi has quite a reputation for not running away from controversy. He criticized President John Dramani Mahama, something nobody in the party would dare to do. In response to his criticism, the then president said those who wanted to seek his back, 2016 is just around the corner. That 2016 came, and indeed Mr. Mahama was out of the presidency. Bagbi saw this as an opportunity to realize his long-held ambition to be president. He has remained the most vocal critic of the former president, holding him directly responsible for the party's loss. Ordinarily, the consummate politician has the political connections in the NDC to easily win the presidential nomination and the history to back. But a lot has changed since the time his career skyrocketed as a minority leader, and he has lost some of the luster he had. The other factors that may militate against his campaign are his recent gaffes and the deep pocket needed to prosecute a successful campaign. He appears to be a likely favorite of the party's founder, Mr. Rawlings. But even the former president has had cause to issue a statement condemning his comments about persons with disability appointed into government by President Mahama. Mr. John Dramani Mahama, former member of parliament for Bole, former deputy minister, former vice president, and former president, has arguably the richest and most admirable political CV in Ghana's politics today. Since entering parliament in 1997, Mr. Mahama was always a star in NDC circles and even nationally. His soft-spoken nature and calm demeanor endeared him to many, both in and outside the NDC. In 2008, when the then candidate John Mills settled on him as running mate, there was no controversy except minor grumblings from the founder of the party and his wife, Nana Konadu Agyemang Rawlings, who favored Betty Modi Drisu. Mr. Mahama brought fresh energy, vigor, and renewed enthusiasm to the NDC ticket for that election. After 3 rounds of voting, the former tax law teacher and his Bole native won the election. So Mr. Mahama became vice president. As fate would have it, the president died and Mr. Mahama became president in accordance with the constitution. He proceeded to run the 2012 election and won. Right after that election, Mr. Mahama's government struggled with a power crisis that did not appear to be anticipated, a crisis that would define the president's tenure. But more than just the energy crisis, his government was dogged by a litany of allegations of corruption, some of which the government struggled to extricate itself from. Consequently, and for among other things, Mensah Mahama lost the 2016 elections by a wide margin and in an embarrassing manner. He became the first incumbent president in the Fourth Republic to lose a re-election bid. Mensah Mahama appears to be determined to undo this blot on his political CV and is therefore running for the nomination of the NDC for the 2020 election. His candidature is the surest yet single most decisive issue in the NDC. If Mr. Mahama does get elected as president, he can only serve one term, having already done his first. He will therefore be barred constitutionally from running for another term after serving one more term. Looked at from any angle, the candidature of the former president puts the NDC in a very difficult, confused state. First, he represents the party's brightest chance of winning the next election, however dim the prospects may be. He is a household name, has got recognition. He remains a superstar. He has the nobility, the charisma, the political acumen to back a claim for the presidency, and of course, the backs to run a campaign. However, Mensah Mahama appears to be putting personal interests over and above group interests. This is why, after he is done with the second term, if he wins the 2020 election, the NDC would be left with the grim prospects of presenting an entirely fresh candidate for the presidency in 2024. No new candidate has won the presidency since 1992. John Kufuor won on a second attempt and actually won after a runoff. John Mills, who was vice president, won after 3 attempts and also won after a runoff. President Akufo-Addo tried 3 times too. So if Mr. Mahama does win in the 2020 election and leaves the presidency in 2025, 2024 will have a fresh NDC candidate without the history backing. This is perilous for the party. Related to this is the argument that since, again, traditionally, at least since 1992, every party has been given 2 terms. The prospects of winning the 2020 elections are bleak. It makes for sensible argument for the NDC to choose a candidate who can be marketed in 2020 and primed for the 2024 elections, a candidate who can run for 2 terms. This has been the main argument of Spugabra, a contender in the race. This is in the overall interest of the party. Another thing that may plague a John Mahama candidature is what another contender, Alban Sumanu Bagbin, described as a friends and family government. In NDC circles, Mensah Mahama is heavily criticized for alienating the core support base of the NDC. Many people in the traditional stronghold of the Volta region maintain the region and its people were largely ignored, both in terms of tangible development and representation in terms of appointments in the government. The election results are telling. Mensah Mahama obtained 80.97% of votes cast in the Volta region in 2016 compared to 85.47% in 2012. Given that the turnout in the region was low, a 5 percentage point drop of lower turnout was quite significant. This was a protest and vote of no confidence of sorts, Mr. Bagbin insists. It is therefore not surprising.
And the aim is to elect a flag bearer for the 2020 general elections. Now, as you can see behind me, electoral officers are about wrapping up the voting for today. According to the electoral registrar here, they have only 67 people who are expected to vote here. Now, they've made it such that only members of the Council of Elders of the party, national executive who are stationed here in Accra, those are the ones who have their names on the voters register as far as the national headquarters is concerned. So as you can see, it just clocked 5 p.m. So the wrapping is being done. The electoral officers are about going through and locking the ballot box, and then they will begin the process to sort it out, count it, and declare. That's what's going to happen here. As at 2 minutes to 5, when I checked, only 42 out of 67 had come through to vote, meaning that this polling center, the headquarters of the NDC, will not record 100% turnout. It's 5 p.m. Nobody is going to be allowed to vote here. It is done and dusted. they are now going to start a process to sort it out and then count. I must say that it's been very peaceful, very orderly here at the NDC headquarters. But in some few hours to come, this place is going to be the scene of a massive crowd. And the agenda will be to witness the formal declaration of the person the over 300,000 delegates have selected to lead a party into the 2020 general elections. On the first floor of the NDC headquarters here, they have set the place up. My information is that once the Electoral Commission is done with the collation of the results, they will forward it here to the NDC headquarters. The General Secretary of the party, according to the program we've been briefed, will announce the purpose of the gathering. And then after, we'll hand it over to the electoral officers from the Electoral Commission. They will go ahead and then declare the winner of today's National Delegates Congress of the party. And then the Electoral Commission officers will hand it over to the NDC General Secretary, Mr. Johnson Ketia, who would then, according to custom of the party, would then hold the hand of the person who according to polls that we are yet to witness, because counting has already started across the country, will communicate that name to the supporters of the party at the first floor, which is the conference center. As you can see on the screens, the electoral officers are about wrapping up their logistics here. The next minute will be the sorting out. The ballot box, as you can see, few people came through. 42 out of 67 people who are on the voters list here at the NDC headquarters, 42 came out to vote, meaning that we will not record 100%. The electoral officer has taken the ballot box. They are taken to their place. It will be open in the presence of party agents who are representing the 7 presidential candidates here. And then the sorting will done. I don't anticipate this to go beyond 1 hour because we have only 42 ballot papers in this particular ballot box. And when it's done, the declaration will be done. We'll then move to the first floor where the stage has been set for the formal declaration as far as the presidential candidate elect for the NDC is concerned. We are looking forward to a very long night, but very exciting night here at the NDC headquarters, because eventually this is where everything will end here as far as the NDC National Delegates Congress is concerned. Over 300,000 people went to the polls to vote. Now the decision is down to who will emerge as the flag bearer of the party going into the 2020 election. For more indication, it is looking quite clear for former President John Dramani Mahama as the person likely to be elected as flag bearer of the NDC. But the counting and the declaration will tell, and that's what we are here to bring to you here on Joy News, on Joy 99.7 FM, and of course around the world on myjoyonline.com. If you will stay with me for some few moments, you will soon get to know the choice of the Council of Elders, national executives of the party, who were billed to vote here. Now, information we had earlier was that former President John Rawlings was, expected to come here and vote. Unfortunately, as from morning when voting started at 7 a.m. until now, he did not show up. We don't know whether he went to vote somewhere else, but the information we got was that his name is on the voter register here at the headquarters, but unfortunately, he did not come out to vote. We can monitor the sorting as it's being done here. I told you earlier that only 42 out of 67 came out to vote. So in the next 15 minutes, this should end here at the NDC headquarters. They are now in the process of sorting out the ballots. We have agents representing the 7 presidential candidates, presidential hopefuls actually, who actually went through voting. Once that is done, the electoral officer here will declare the winner, signed, and then my information is that they will send the results to the Electoral Commission headquarters, which is also the coalition center for this National Delegates Congress of the NDC. And then the information will again come back to the NDC headquarters, where a special, conference hall has been designated for the announcement or declaration of the final winner for this Congress. Now, the winner for this Congress has a very big task going forward, because he's going to lift the NDC into the 2020 general election. And for more indication, is
in that constituency, but they just want to wait and see things for themselves. So far, it has been very, very peaceful. The security is on the ground, and there has not been any incidents so far.
And Ivy, tell us about voter turnout. Has it been low or high?
It has been high, encouraging. So at the end of the polling, Keta constituency, 759 delegates out of 805 voted. So it has been encouraging. So that means about 100 plus were not able to vote.
Ivy Satoji, thank you very much. Ivy in the Keta constituency from Afia Denyuba, bringing us up to speed. We've been told that generally this exercise has been smooth, but there's been also some allegations that's been recorded.
Even the 5 o'clock mark, at this place, out of the 1,186 people that we were expecting to vote, only 1,036 people turned out to vote as of 5 p.m. And so counting has also begun in earnest. The same thing applies in the Cape Coast South constituency, but people are asking whether they didn't see Rickett Hagan, the MP for Cape Coast, come to vote there because it was very close to where he lives that the voting was done or the election took place. And so these were some of the speculations that were there. But currently the thing is going on and everything has gone on smoothly and peacefully.
So Richard, you tell us that people have gathered to witness the counting.
Exactly. A lot of the people are here. They are shouting GM's name already. They say that GM from their reading has won already. I've seen Rickett Hagan here. Good evening, sir. Good evening. You voted already because earlier people were saying that you didn't turn up.
Well, I'm here.
You voted. Where did you?
Cape Coast, my constituency.
How has the process gone for you?
I think it's been good. It's been good. First of all, let me commend the Electoral Commission. I think they've done a fantastic job. The whole place, we've got to come to Cape Coast. And they came out here like a carnival atmosphere. And also, we should give thanks to the police for actually policing this event for us. I am glad that we did not involve any other security forces, as we know, especially with what is happening in the country at the moment. And I hope that this will be the beginning of good things to come when we are conducting elections. Be really peaceful here. And I'm sure in the next, hour or so, we will get the results as to who has emerged as the leader of the NDC party.
Because of the conversation we're having around the political militia groups, that is why we didn't see them, and we just saw only the security force.
Well, I think for a start, that is part of the reason. Of course, the president said at the State of the Nation that we should all sit down together and resolve this issue. But ideally, anywhere you go in the world, if elections are being conducted, it's obviously the people who police it are the police. So we must begin to, emulate what is done in the rest of the world rather than have different, and we can have better things, or not better things, we can have other things for our young men and women, to do, rather than get into this situation where elections become life and death. It shouldn't be. It's just an expression of different opinion, different ideas as to how to take our party or to take our country. It should not become something that we kill each other over.
Before I let you go, you wanted to contest in this primary. I mean, how do you feel about all of these things? Do you think that you should have been there?
Well, I really enjoyed it while it lasted, and I'm glad I did. And I think that one of the things, apart from just contesting an election, it's also to show the alternative that we have in the party. Many a times you hear people say that NDC hasn't got people. But of course, the demonstration of the number of people who contested from the beginning, even those who pulled out and those who saw it through to the end, tells you that the NDC has a lot of alternatives. Of course, in my case, when I went round, what the delegates were telling me that they want us to basically resolve around one candidate because we wanted to win 2020 election. And that candidate, I was told, was President Mahama. We live in a democracy. As a leader of a democratic, party in my constituency, I go by the wishes of the voters or the delegates whom I represent. And if they think that we should go with a particular candidate, I think it is my duty as a leader to rally behind. I'm sure in a few minutes we'll hear the result. I have voted. I'm sure you're not going to ask me who I voted for. But I think in my lecture when I was dropping out of the race, I did state categorically clear that the election is predetermined and we know who is going to emerge as the leader. You know, I hope we are all right. And now when the leader come out, we should all rally. Whatever cracks that we have in the party, we should seal those cracks like a building. If you are coming to paint a building, you seal the cracks and do all the repairs before we paint. The painting will be the unity. So once we seal the cracks, we paint, and you see a different ending. I mean, what has happened in the last few months will be completely different after this result, and we will emerge behind the leader who will be taking us to win the 2020 election. NDC government is always better for Ghanaians.
Well, counting is yet to start, but sorting is underway. And as you can see right behind me, the electoral officers are sorting out their ballots, and in a matter of minutes, we would have the counting, take place. But already there's excitement, so much excitement here. And you get a sense that a lot of the people who are gathered here are supporters of John Dramani Mahama. I want us to speak briefly to the constituency chairman, and we also have the Valerie Sawyer, the former Deputy Chief of Staff here. We'll try and see if we can get a word from her before we go. But sir, you're live on Joy News. What would you say has the process been so far? How would you describe the process?
Generally, the process has been quite peaceful and orderly. And I think that turnout is about 78.41%. We expected to have a much more higher turnout, but 78.41% is not too bad. If we had a higher turnout, then it would have been a much more interesting story to tell. But as it is now, looking at the sorting, it is quite clear that personally my expectation is being met.
Which is?
Well, which is to have continuation of a former president that had done so much for this country, a former president that have brought so much development, unprecedented development, I would say. If you look at infrastructure, you look at schooling, you look at housing, you look at even the economy, as at the time, was doing much, much more better. I think the dollar at that time was about 3.9%.
So essentially you're saying that you're hoping that John Dramani Mahama would win the election so he can lead the party into the 2020 general election?
My hope is that John Dramani Mahama wins the primaries and then it's sworn into office come 2020. That is my expectation.
Let's talk about security. Ahead of this, election, we've had issues with political militias and what have you. How would you describe the security situation here?
I think all along we have known that we are secured with the police, which has been the security agency that has taken care of our elections over the time. It was just unfortunate that we had that incident at Ayawaso West Wogon constituency where we had totally strangers, who came onto the scene with masks on their faces, preventing themselves from mosquito, we were told, and created mayhem, more or less, and it was very unfortunate. Today at Korle Klottey constituency, I think that the process vis-a-vis security has been very, very peaceful, and so yeah, we are happy and we hope that this will be repeated in 2020.
Okay, so you earlier talked about the fact that you wish that your expectations will be met, that is seeing that JDM wins the elections. I spoke to a number of your executives and they all seem to be towing that line. A lot of you openly declare support for JDM, but there are people within your constituency who are also loyalists of the other candidates. How do you intend uniting them, bringing everybody on board after today's election?
I think that the beauty of democracy is that people should be allowed to have their choices. And so there is nothing wrong that when you're having an internal election people are able to express their choices and their desires. At the end of the day, once a candidate is elected, it's an expectation of all that everybody comes together, but because by then you are now going to fight, your opponent, or if you like, contest your opponent. This is what I would call a sparring. In boxing, you have your sparring partner, and so that is where you get your strength from. And then with that, you go over to face the opponent. And so I think that we are poised as a constituency. We are united already. We have to work a little bit more to make sure that those who, went for other candidates and unfortunately will become losers today are brought onto the scene, and that together we have a united, a formidable NDC in the Korte-Korle constituency so that we can face the MPP in 2020.
All right, so that is the chairman, the constituency chairman for Korle-Klote here at Osu. Of course, Valerie Sawyer is here, but she has declined speaking to us. But Madam, trust you're doing well.
Very well.
And you look very excited.
I'm very happy, waiting for them to announce the winner.
Obviously a JDM, loyalist.
To death.
And going forward, what should we be doing? I mean, what should the party be doing?
As I told you, I don't want to give an interview. I'm watching very carefully the ballots that are being sorted out, and I'm waiting for the counting to begin.
But you seem to have so much support here, especially amongst the women. What is the secret? What is happening?
I love them and they love me.
Originally, you vote here?
Yes, I've always been a Klote constituency.
Okay. And so, Dr. Valerie Sawyer there, speaking to us here at the Art Center, which is the polling center for the Korle-Klote constituency. So, in your shot now, are the electoral officers trying to put the figures together, to make sure that everything is fine and to eventually declare the winner at the constituency here. So Mamavi, that's the latest from here, and definitely we'll be bringing you updates. Supporters here are very much excited, and they cannot wait for the EC to finally declare the results.
Kojomeno from Klote-Korle. We cross over to the NDC's headquarters, and we know who has won there. Elton is on standby. Elton? Hello, Elton, if you can hear me.
Yes, Mamabi, we have a winner from the NDC national headquarters. Yes, Mamabi, I can hear you loud. We have a winner from the NDC national headquarters. The voters register contained 67 names. At the end of voting, let me run by you the results as declared by the electoral officer here. Aban Suman Ababen had 1 vote. Nuruddin Idrisu had 0. Evans Mensah had 4. Kospio Gabra had 0. Guti Tando had 2. Professor Joshua Alabi had 1, and John Dramani Mahama had 33. So John Dramani Mahama won the NDC national headquarters here. It's been almost, 3 months of intense preparation towards this day, and Mr. Kofiato was at the behest of the planning committee. He chairs the NDC election planning committee, and I have him here. Let's have a chat about how it's been so far for you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
If I look back to trade fair and what has happened today, there's been massive improvement.
Yes, but there were different concepts. Trade fair, we brought 9,000 people together in one room, and they had to go through this voting process. This time, we used 275 different concepts, 276 anyway. Right. So the concepts were different. Although the number of people who voted this time was about 260,000. But they voted in different places and had up to 7 o'clock to 5 p.m. to vote. So although they were all tedious, they came with different concepts.
Now, let's stay a bit longer on today's events. I'm sure you've been monitoring, information across the country. What has been the report to your office so far?
3 words: smooth, cool, orderly. Those were the 3 words that our own reporters, and listening to Joy, because I have Joy sitting on my table, radio, and listening to all the radio stations around. It's been very orderly. The turnout has been very high. I don't know the total turnout because the results will now start coming in. And the enthusiasm was very high. And there were no real serious problems. A few places, some names didn't appear.
Because we've been told of people who couldn't find their names. Some names were sent to other constituencies. How come?
Oh, it's natural. It's I mean, those incidences are very few and far between. It takes, you see, the names came from the constituencies. We didn't compile them from here. And there were a few gaps. Some of the gaps too can be explained because some constituencies do not have the full complement of, because you have to elect 24 people and co-opt 23 and co-opt 5, making 28. Areas where the co-option has not yet been done, you have 23 instead of 28. But we try to sort out those problems the last 3 days.
All right. So now we are now all waiting for the collated results from the Electoral Commission.
Yes.
And then what happens?
The process is that the Electoral Commission will collate the results through their regions. And then we will be moving from here to the Electoral Commission for them to collate the results from all over the country. Then we'll bring the results here. And it will be declared by the Electoral Commission officer who is in charge. And then they will then hand over to us. Then we will now introduce the winner. So that's the process from now. We are expecting the results. We are doing our internal collation here, but we are going to rely on the Electoral Commission one. This one is just a cross-check. And then we'll come back here and announce the results.
And then are we likely to see the hopefuls here to receive the news?
We have invited them, but we also give them the option to send representatives if they cannot make it. But we are hoping that they will come. But we have given them the option, if anybody who cannot make it, to send a rep.
Right. And then after the formal declaration, are you likely to have a rally of a sort to sort of appreciate your supporters? I'm trying to understand what happens after today.
We'll debate that, we'll discuss that on Tuesday. We will now give our report. The planning committee will give our report to the executive committee on Tuesday. Then we'll now announce to you the way forward, whether there will be an inauguration of the flag bearer or whether it will be done in all the regions.
But do you have any idea? Have they communicated to you that they will be here in person?
No, I'm saying that as of now, I'm not privy to that communication. We give them options. By 7 o'clock, we will know who will be here and who will not be here. And then, hoping by 9 or 10 o'clock, we should be able to declare the results.
All right. Mr. Atto, thank you very much for speaking to us. And that's the chairman of the NDC's election committee. So he supervised the just ended National Delegates Congress of the party. It hasn't ended yet. We are now getting into the main, meat of the whole, enterprise. And that will be the formal declaration of the winner for today's Delegates Congress. And it is pointing towards a certain direction. Let me just walk you through the results as declared by the electoral officer here at the NDC National Headquarters. And the electoral roll for the headquarters contains members of the Council of Elders, leading members of the party. So we are, the Ahoys and those people who've been with the NDC since 1992. So those are the people who came here to vote. The electoral register had 67 names. Only 42 made it to vote. And the results as declared by the electoral officer had it at Aban Baben 1, Nuruddin Idris 0, Sylvester Mensah 4, Ekospio Gabra 0, Bositando 2, Professor Joshua Alabi 1, John Dramani Mahama 33, making him the winner from the NDC headquarters here. Now, as you heard from Mr. Kofi Atto, we're now waiting for the Electoral Commission to collate the results from across the country. They will bring it here, and then the formal declaration will be done by the party here. They've extended an invitation to all the presidential hopefuls to be here in person or send their representative to come and receive the news. As you can see, the process has started to cordon off the place to ensure that there's order here at the party headquarters. Those without accreditation are now being pushed outside of the walls of the NDC headquarters. The place is being prepared for the mammoth announcement that is expected to be heard by supporters and the leading members of the NDC. So this is the situation here at the NDC headquarters. We are now waiting for the Electoral Commission to do its duty by collating the results and then bring it here for formal declaration.